Hello friends, today we'll be making a bird feeder. And yes, that was the extent of my design notes going into this. In a nod to my previous life before becoming a full-time woodworker, we're going to style it after a telephone box. I have often heard that you should meditate every day to help deal with stress and anxiety. But staying still and trying to focus on nothing is not my kind of thing, and it just makes me more anxious. So to deal with my stress and anxiety, I prefer to just go watch the birds with a drink in hand. The classic red telephone box is iconic. Often used in stock footage and photos about the UK, you'll see one alongside the usual red buses and the royal family. But in the modern age, where no one needs a pay-as-you-go telephone on the street, they're becoming a much less common sight. The K2 kiosk was Britain's first red telephone box, with it being the winning design from a 1924 competition. It was designed by Sir Giles Gilbert Scott and was introduced by the post office to replace an earlier, less durable model. Up until 1981, the post office managed the national telephone network, as telecommunications was just seen as another form of communication alongside postal. The iconic red colour of the telephone box was chosen to make the boxes easily recognisable even from a distance. And to me, the K2 model was the best looking one. It was the one I would most often see when growing up before they started disappearing from our streets. And the red telephone boxes were a much more common sight than the blue police boxes made famous by Doctor Who. And I never liked Doctor Who, so there's a 0% chance of me making one of them. Farscape was much more my kind of sci-fi show when I was growing up. Nowadays, to protect their heritage, some villages have adopted the red telephone boxes and turned them into mini local libraries, art galleries, or even defibrillator stations. We want to make sure we select the right pallet wood for bird feeders, as we need to make sure the wood is untreated to ensure it's safe for the birds. Here I'm gluing together the side frames, leaving a small gap at the bottom to allow the birds to be able to get at the feed. Now to mark up where I'm going to make some half lap cuts, as I found this to be the easiest method to interconnect the internal frame. You may notice I already have one side frame made up. This one I did with just a handsaw on the Mitre box you see there. You can definitely do this with just hand tools, you just need lots of time and patience. I have the Mitre saw set to only cut down to half the thickness of the frame piece. Now just marking up the smaller pieces where they will be intersecting with the longer pieces for their half lap cuts. As we will be cutting some small parts on the Mitre saw, I made a small parts jig to help keep my fingers away from the blade. I can just tape the small parts to the jig and move the jig instead of the part, making it much safer to do these cuts. I find the best method here is to offer rough cut parts up to the frame and mark where they need to be cut for a snug fit. This helps to avoid any compound errors and gives a little fudge factor for any mistakes. For making the base, I'm sizing it slightly larger than the main structure to allow for a place for the feed to collect. The roof arch I'm making with some rough cut lengths of pallet wood, which I then bevel the size to 22.5 degrees. Which I then trim to lengths of 125mm. And the leftover pieces get cut to form the frame for which the roof arch will sit on. Using some tape to act as a clamp, I can fold up the roof to glue it together. I also offered up the glued arch to some scrap to be able to mark then cut the caps for each end, which I could then just nail up to help hold the roof arch together. To stop all the bird feed from just falling to the ground, I'm cutting up and then gluing and nailing some extra pieces for the floor section to act as a lip. And then it's time to clean and fit some acrylic to help hold all the feed in place. I've drilled a 15mm hole near the top of the two shorter sides, ready for the hanging dowel later. To connect the main structure to the floor, I lined it up where I wanted it to sit and marked around it, and then transferred those marks to the underside. This then gave me a target where to aim for when nailing in from the bottom. Staining the wood with beetroot juice. Not only does this give our feeder a vibrant red colour, reminiscent of the original telephone boxes, but it's also an eco-friendly and non-toxic option for our garden. I'm applying the beetroot juice with a brush and letting it soak in fully. I'll probably need a couple of coats to achieve the level of colour I want. And there you have it, a beautiful functional bird feeder that brings touches of British heritage to our garden. Thanks for joining us. Be sure to give us a like and subscribe, and check out our other creative garden projects. And I hope to see you again soon. Bum, 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 bum.